to our June call here. This is our Entrepreneur Mastermind, and you will probably be able to see somewhere on the screen, or I hope we can see, let's have a look at my video. We have got a number of people who have joined me. So one is Joe Formosa, who has joined me. Hi, Joe.
Hi, Roger.
How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Awesome. And we have Sarah Taylor as well. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, how are you going?
Very good. All right. So this is going to be a really awesome call because it's all about commit to conduct, which is the second level after measuring money, which is all about the habits that we create for ourselves, right? And just so happens that both Joe and Sarah have their own stories. They're both involved in the health and the fitness side, in the nutrition, in the diet side. So there's going to be an element to how our health relates to our wealth that we're going to be going through. And we also have got, before we jump into the kind of conversational side that we're going to go through, we also have got all of you on the call having started to post your successes, your questions. So let me start with that for a moment, right? Like you can see here, we have the Entrepreneur Mastermind link up. Oh, by the way, this was a great example of our team coming together and using their profiles to get tickets. We all got tickets to the State of Origin game in Australia, which is kind of like, not quite, but kind of like the Super Bowl in terms of a big thing that happens in Australia. And here we have Jody, who is our deal maker, and in the midst of us all getting busy doing things, she somehow managed to get to know all of the Queensland State of Origin team, who then ended up giving us tickets to come, which is pretty awesome. And so yeah, there's always magic to be had wherever you are, whatever you're doing. Here are all of the different successes that we have got posted up by everyone who's managed to post it so far. If you haven't yet posted, go in and post in here, because I can tell you over the year, as you look back at what's happened year on year, or month on month, it's a really powerful way for you to be able to actually see the progress that you're making as well, and also the progress of everyone in this team as well, right? But what I've got, I'm going to just take 5 minutes to just acknowledge a whole bunch of those who are on the Entrepreneur Mastermind at the moment that have actually been posting down some of the things that have been happening in your world. And I've actually put up a couple of different slides. I haven't put up slides for everyone on here, and I'm not going to go through everyone's because there is a lot on here, but I want to just highlight a few different ones. So we've got our nerdy creator, Chang Chan, who's actually written on here that he's actually just learned. Check this out. He's learned JavaScript and HTML and CSS. These are all basically coding languages. He did it all on Code Academy, which is free, by the way. So here's his site, and you can actually go. Yeah, I'm going to actually drop these as I go, so you can, if you see anything that you want to get linked on, you can see them here. Here's Code Academy, which is what he's talking about. So here you can actually go in and learn all of this stuff, and just understanding how coding works is a super valuable thing anyway. So I think it's great that he's out there and he's doing that. We have got, hang on, coming back to it. Eric, who started working with Mentor on his on building his business ideas, and who's worked on partnerships. So much of this is about who you connect with and the people you're connecting with out there as well. We've got Monica, who, as you remember, won the scholarship, and she has now got her new website up and running. You can see it here, which is looking really awesome. So it's looking very cool. It's evolved a lot, which is great. And I'm going to just post that up here as well. And then we have got here, so we're going from Cambodia to South Africa. Here's Stuart talking about his team, getting his whole team up and running, which is great. Quite a few of you have done that, actually, getting everything going. Dan, same thing. Carrie-Ann, many successes. I love this one. So Carrie-Ann, she runs a company called Katenga Foods. So many successes. My technology business is placed its first solar classroom, 2 classrooms and a small school in the pipeline. There was an international partner for Katenga Food, where we'll start to import into South Africa as well as export. My sales lady has a very successful trip to Zambia. So like when you start getting to flow, everything starts taking off, and you might be just around the corner from flow, and it might be just that one person to connect with, or that one opportunity to become part of. And just by having this mastermind where you can see what everyone's up to, and do connect with each other as well, because that's the great thing about this group, is that everyone's here to support each other as well, right? So that's Katenga. Here's her Marie, who said with her homeology, we had a conversation which was all about her basically getting really focused at some high-level clients to really bring the money in. And she just went and got 2 more retainers from 2 clients. So that's bringing the money in there. And you can see here's Tanaka. Some of you are asking about digital agencies. Tanaka is a really great digital agency, and so connect with them. they're part of our Chris Circle and also Mastermind if you're looking for that kind of support. And I'm just going to post up as well Tenga Foods, new website all around how you can actually go about creating a really good, like this is all about foods in South Africa, importing and exporting, but a really great site. This is a new site as well. So quite a few of you, since you joined Mastermind, have actually gone out and revamped what you're up to and what you're doing, which is great. Here's Homeology, which is won the Blog Awards winner 2014 for best blog in South Africa, which is pretty cool. And just a couple more, let me just share. We have here Chris clearing out legacy issues, getting all the old stuff out of the way. Catherine, who has earned her, she's actually quit her job now, so she's full-time in her business, which is all about booking people into castles for events, which is her big thing in England, which is awesome. We have Claudia, who's also got herself business registered, everything rolling for her as well. Another team, Dorian's got his entire team up and running now. Lots of cool stuff that's happening here. Here's Cheryl, who was writing earlier that she's been using all of the different tools to get a real clear idea on her timing and what she's up to within her business. And then here is quite a few others I think I might have missed. Here's professional services. This is the one that we just talked about here. Dorian, enjoy the journey. Great example of a company which is like able to now start growing with potential crowdsourcing, where what he does is actually provide something similar to Uber, but for hotels, right? So that's a really cool business. So again, some of you might actually find people who are in here who have got a really good business model that you want to follow, right? Someone like Martine, let me just post this one as well. Someone like Martine, who you can see here, has got a site called Fit to Change. She actually is one of the center managers for one of the big fitness franchises in Australia, and she's now taking a whole group of different fitnesspreneurs, as she calls them, to get together to basically go out and get connected up for a way to create a fitness movement all over Australia. She can actually run this in Bali, right? So again, I think there's going to be a lot from this call that is going to be really interesting, getting connected up with what we're going to be talking about, fitness and health within here as well. That we have many people in our environment that are that kind of person. And then we have got a number of others who are in here with different events that they've running. We ran the FFYB in Auckland, also in Melbourne, so that was a big success for a number of people. Here's Sarah, who's about to share with us as well her story. And then we have Richard, who just joined us, and he had just had his first teaching tour of South Korea, which is pretty awesome. So this is his site here, which is all around linking DNA and our heritage through with our personality types, which is pretty cool. So I think there's some really good links in with what we do within Wealth Dynamics as well. So I'm mentioning a couple of these, but do come in here and have a good look at the different people who've shared their successes in here as well, because there's some really, really cool ones. And then do connect with the people that you think you could learn from or that you could add value to as well. The more, the better. Final one I'll mention, another good example, given that we have two women on this call. This is Sally Ann Macklin with her MAD, Women Making a Difference, where she says she's linked with the star profile. She's a Lord, and they've pooled their resources together, created Women Making a Difference network in the Central Coast of Australia. So they ran their first promotion. They had 25 women at the launch, 3-week startup. They've already written $10,000 worth of business off the back of that 3 weeks. So it's all kind of like moving forward just by using the same tools that we talk about on these calls as well to make sure that you're actually monetizing your moment as well as being the person that you want to be. So that is, let's see if I can find that one up here as well. There is this link here, not yet up, so about the next time, I guess. Okay, so with all of that being said, I'm going to come for questions later, and you might have some more questions as we go through this as well. Ironically, we are going to be talking a little bit about health and fitness, and I have a cold, but we're going to battle through anyway. So let me start by coming over to a couple of links. Here's the link to this site, obviously. My YouTube channel, you know of already. I'm going to come back to the levels so we get into it. But I want to start basically with Sarah. Hey, Sarah, I put up some groovy little photos. Here's a photo of Sarah. I guess this is like 5 years ago, something like 2010 or something like that. Maybe.
That was 5 years ago. Yeah, the one on the left.
So you were 40 years old at that point, right? You just turned 40?
Yes.
Right. And
yes,
then
just turned 40.
Okay, so here you are now, like, as of last year.
On the right was 42.
Right. and here's some other images which kind of tell a certain story, and here's some other images which tell the whole story. Do you want to share with everyone this whole shift, like your story of what happened when you were there at 40 and the pathway that took you from that to becoming a 3-time world champion, and also what you're up to right now as a result of having gone through this pathway?
Okay. I guess in a nutshell, I hit 40 and I was in a 10-year relationship, but that ended. And although earlier in the year I'd had a gym assessment that actually categorized myself as obese, at that particular point it didn't really register. It was when I separated from my partner and moved out into a house on my own that I had, like Roger had his car moment, I had a moment because I basically was sitting on a 8-year-old beaten up sofa. I owned a fridge, a washing machine, a bed, and my TV was propped on a box. And I think it was the TV propped on a cardboard box that really made me hit home where I was at, and it wasn't a particularly good space. And I guess like many women my age, I've hit 40, I'm single, and I'm fat. To me, that was just like, oh my God, nobody will ever love me again like this. And I just was lost and a bit directionless. So I set myself a goal of climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. I needed to find myself again, and high altitude trekking is something that I love doing. So I set about really just getting fit to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. And in that event, I lost 25 kilos. Once I'd done that, I lapsed into...
Okay, so most people, when they go climbing a mountain, even if it is Kilimanjaro, don't necessarily lose 25 kilos, right? So what was your training that you were doing that ended up with that kind of result?
Look, I was doing some very intense training. I was training sort of 3 hours a day, which was too much. And from what I've learned now, it was way too much. And I was, in a funny kind of way, I guess I was punishing myself for letting my health go, because I've always thought of myself as a fit, sporty person, and I've done sport for my whole life. And I guess in a way I was punishing myself because I'd taken my health for granted, and this was the result. So I promised myself, and I actually made my health my #1 priority. And from that point on, I made it a non-negotiable in my life. So I got fit and I climbed the mountain. From there, it's sort of, like I say, I lapsed into depression after the climb because, again, I was a bit directionless again. But having promised myself never to take my health for granted again, I was sliding back into bad habits. So I hired a personal trainer to keep me accountable. And it was that accountability that kept me going. And we were doing such interesting stuff that gradually, I guess, fitness became my lifeline. And then eventually it became something that was just so much fun that I couldn't wait to get to the gym every day. And I continued all the way through with keeping up with my diet. And I rewarded myself for sticking to the goal with a photo shoot. And it was from there that my photographer said, "Are you a bodybuilder?" Which at the stage I wasn't. And I thought, well, I'll have a go. And 10 weeks later, I won a state championship after 10 weeks of bodybuilding. And that was when I was 42. So it really kicked off from there. But following that win, I then had to get both shoulders reconstructed. So that was a year of rehab and just not even being in the gym at all. So again, I went through a whole, having identified myself so much with a healthy, fit person, having that taken away from me again, I was really a bit lost. But like I say, having made health non-negotiable, I just kept at it, and I plugged away at the rehab. And 2 years later, I won 3 world championships. Like you did.
So I want to break this down a bit.
I've turned professional, and I've got three professional Miss Universe competitions in Austin, Texas, New York, and Las Vegas.
Yeah. Well, okay. So first of all, congratulations, because that's pretty awesome.
Okay.
Secondly, that doesn't happen a lot from someone in Australia heading out there and actually, creating that, and certainly doesn't happen a lot to women in their mid-40s, right? And the actual ambition to even do it only really came about after the smaller wins, right? I mean, I think that's one of the biggest lessons I get from your story was it all didn't start by you just waking up one day and going, right, I'm just going to be a world champion. It started by you waking up one day and saying, I'm going to change my habits here, and I'm not going to. You just said, like, it was non-negotiable. I'm going to make something in my life non-negotiable where I'm just going to get focused at it. And then you just followed the signs along the way. When someone said, hey, are you a bodybuilder? It's like, no, but okay, maybe I'll give that a go. And then one thing led to another. Yeah.
I mean, I've literally been, opportunities have just appeared and I've just been rolling with it. And it's just, where it's gone has far exceeded anything I could ever imagine. And I guess because I made that absolute commitment, which was actually really aligned with who I thought I was in anyway. Like I say, I always thought I was a fit, sporty, healthy person. So not being that was being out of flow. So getting back into that put me straight back into flow. And then, like you say, once you're in flow, you can achieve amazing things.
Yeah. Well, and I've actually put up here for everyone who is looking online. You can see this. Here is a link to Sarah's blog site, which is a bit outdated, but we talked about that, and she's been certainly ready for the next.
It's the most complete of my 7 websites.
By the way, for everyone who's listening in on this, I mean, one thing really important here is Sarah has not yet taken the steps to monetize all of this success she's had, because I mean, she's just out there competing. And Sarah, you've got a full-time job as an IT professional, right?
I'm a business analyst in sort of the IT world, but I'm just starting to leverage this into a viable business. I've spent the last 4 years blogging about sort of diet, nutrition, and fitness. So I've got a fairly big following. As you can see from the pictures there, I created my own magazine for female bodybuilders and got 1,000 subscribers before I went, okay, been there, done that, next. So I've put myself out there and established a reputation in my community. So I've got all of this information, and for the last sort of year, I've been thinking about how I can leverage my success into something beyond bodybuilding once I finish. And all the way through my whole journey, the diet and nutrition has been absolutely fascinating me. To be a natural athlete like I am, and to get down to those pictures of me at 6% body fat, you've really got to have such an incredible understanding of how food can be used to achieve whatever you want. That to me, it's just been utterly fascinating to me, the whole journey, and that's where I'm starting to leverage it now into a coaching business.
Yeah, no, very cool. And now that we're working together, so everyone knows, yes. Now we've got Sarah in our crystal circle, so I'm going to be helping her to actually turn all of this into something which is a really great program that can actually get other people who you don't have to win a world championship, but definitely want to improve what you're doing. And we've actually got our entire team at Entrepreneurs Institute all excited about working with Sarah as well. So we're going to see this over this coming year. We're going to see this kind of like evolution happen. And your next championships are happening September time, right?
September 5th in Austin, Texas. Yes, it's the first.
Right. Okay. Awesome. Okay. So we're going to come back to Sarah in a bit, but I just want to just articulate what all of this has to do with commit to conduct, right? And there's 2 elements, and I'm going to come to Joe. The first one is, I remember one of the things that once in an interview, Richard Branson was asked, what's the number one thing that you can do or that you do to help your businesses? And he says, I go to the gym. That's what he says, right? He says, I go to the gym, because the way he sees it is that if he looks after himself, the universe will look after him. It's kind of interesting things. Like, as long as I am valuing myself enough to put my health first, to put my fitness first, to put my diet first, which means that I'm saying to the universe, I care about myself enough that I want to be around for a while, the universe is then going to take me seriously and go, oh, if that's the case, then we're going to help you out as well. And as a result of that, you end up basically with all sorts of amazing things happening in your business that wouldn't happen otherwise if you weren't doing that. So I found that really fascinating. And other than my flu at the moment, I'm one of those people that tend to, whenever I'm kind of like losing confidence in my own ability to do something, I'll always revert back to basically going out and getting fit, or going out and looking after myself, because that's something that I can control with myself, and it's the easiest way for me to keep a promise to myself. Because at the end of the day, all success as an entrepreneur comes down to 2 things: your internal trust, which is your confidence, and your external trust, which is your credibility. And credibility is something which requires the outside world to have trust in you for what you achieve. Whereas confidence is something which is inside, which is you having confidence in your own ability to keep your own promises. And what better place to start than with your own fitness? So whenever I was having really tough times in my life, I would always, turn back to my own fitness and my own health to say, well, okay, can I just run that extra kilometer? Can I actually just, promise I'm going to do something in the gym, or promise I'm going to do something with my health, and then follow through with it? Because if I can promise and then fulfill on that, well, then there's other things I can do in my life as well. And it always rebuilt my confidence much faster than trying to go out there trying to create something complex like a business. So with that being said...
Can I just say something, Roger?
Yeah.
Sorry, can I just say something? If any of you have studied like the billionaires and super successful people, you'll find some very common threads in there. And just as Roger said, the first thing they do is, they tend to wake up early, and the first thing they do is look after themselves. They'll read, they'll meditate, they'll do some exercise, and then they'll have a really good breakfast before they do anything else, because they know that unless they look after themselves, then they can't go out and do what they need to do for others. So yeah, I mean, you just said
Sarah,
exactly the same thing. That's why you're probably why you're successful.
It was hilarious when we were in Necker Island. The very first breakfast, Teresa had gone down to look at there was these massive turtles, the tortoises that were down there. So she'd gone down there, and she came to breakfast, and she's like, I cannot believe this place. Everyone's out running, or everyone's out there doing exercise. It's like this is crazy. It's like I've passed at least 15 people that were just running by, exercising or playing tennis or something at like 6 in the morning. That like these people are crazy. And then Kathleen was like saying to her, Teresa, don't you get, this is the secret code, right? I mean, like all these successful people, the way they got successful is by doing stuff like this. So if you want to be successful, just check out what these people are doing, right? It's kind of like an unwritten secret code, but it's not secret at all because you can see it right in front of you. But that's how they all got successful, and it's like so interesting that you're listening to this conversation between a 20-year-old and a 17-year-old or 19-year-old, 17-year-old around like what are the key, you can already tell by someone's habits of their food, of their exercise, how successful they're going to be in life as well. Or you can also see when people are about to go over a cliff. I've seen many people that have actually got quite successful, and then they let themselves go, and the next thing is the business goes as well. So, and I'm just sharing this with everyone. It's so important that if you're thinking, how do I get my money in order? Start by getting your health in order. Start by actually making promises and keeping them to yourself. This is what commit to conduct means. So commit to conduct is, there's a little diagram I'm going to just show here. I'm going to pop it up here. You see the lightning conductor? So this is basically when you commit to conduct, it means you're committing to flow. It means you're committing to be the conductor, which means that all flow can come through you, which means you're actually willing to start measuring how's flow occurring. And if you think that health is nothing more than basically flow through your body. If everything's flowing well, then you're healthy. The moment things get blocked, you get unhealthy. And wealth is just the same. If everything's flowing well, then you're wealthy. And if there starts to become blocks, then you end up losing your wealth. So with that being said, I want to come over to you, Joe, because I really love the way you've built your entire business. And I'll link it up here, right? So if those of you who would have seen, I've actually just dropped Sarah's one of her Facebook pages, and also her website on here. Here's Joe's one. I'm going to drop in here as well, so you can connect with her on Facebook. And here's her website called Back to Health. However, through our conversations, Joe's also growing a whole new brand out of this as well. So before we get onto the business side, Joe, I'd love you to share a little bit about what it is that you do with your practice with Ayurveda, with the elements that you put in place that you've seen have the biggest impact and effect by just that whole understanding of flow that we've been talking about and how it shows up in our health.
Sure. Thanks, Roger. What I do, I'm an Ayurvedic practitioner, so I work with a lot of different people, different businesses, mainly when you're looking at somebody's body type and you understand Ayurveda looks at that you have there's three body types, but you can have combinations. So it is what you're born at. So when I see a client, they'll come in with all sorts of different things, all sorts of disease state, all sorts of problems, from something that can be really simple, something that is very complex that the doctors don't know what to do anymore. So I guess inside of this, I'll use probably an analogy, is like when I work with, because I work with a lot of executives, and when you look at the commit to conduct and look at the health spectrum, and Roger, I don't know if you know, but we've been working on the health spectrum for health.
Cool.
And looking at it on the different missions, on the different levels, because when I see really successful executives, they're doing really, really well, and they may actually be in the alchemy prism, but they're in infrared in their health. So they come and, you talk about, entrepreneurs and business people and things like that do really well with their health. Yes, if that's also something that they commit to. But if they don't commit to that, then all of a sudden everything that they built up, all their wealth and things like that, can just go like within, moments. And it actually, then they spend all their wealth to actually get their health, right? So when we look at it, we look at what is going on with them and where are they at in the spectrum level. And I've come to work it out that when you get somebody at the infrared level, it's like they are in doctors, they've got some sort of disease, they've got some sort of process, but they don't know how to get out of that. So then they come to like a clinician or something like that, and you basically walk them through the steps. And then you'll have some clients who can't follow the program, and you don't see them and they disappear, and then they come back again, and they usually come back when their community comes back, so their husband's involved and their next door neighbor's involved, or a business friend is involved or something. So now they've gone to green level, so now they've involved in their community, right? So their health then starts becoming spread. So I think when you're looking at health with different people and you're understanding, number one, what is your state of your body and what is your body type, then when you know what you're dealing with, you can actually plan it from there, So is that
it is. Yeah, I mean, I really like that, and the whole point that you can take the spectrum levels, and it's true when you're trying to work it all out for yourself, or if you're in infrared's all about overconsumption, right? So if you're in this all over overconsumption, it really is being out of control where you're not measuring anything. And the one thing which is one of the most critical things is what I really like is when I drill down into the way you measure things, Joe, or the way that you measure things, Sarah, it's at such a different degree from what people think about when they're measuring things. So I just want to touch on each of them, so everyone who's listening can really get the value of what happens when you start working with people who are an expert in their field. When, Joe, when you're talking about something like, health within the human body, and you're using Ayurveda, well, there's a couple of things that show up. One is you can zoom right into the particular body type. You can zoom right into the particular diet that's going to work for someone. And you even have this thing, which is where this Ayurveda 360 we talked about came from, where you can actually take someone's pulse, and there's 360 different combinations, which allows you to immediately zoom into exactly what the issue is and how to go about solving it as well. So do you want to talk? And I'll tell you what, I've actually got a slide here, which I just put a bunch of different things on here around Kapha, Pitta, Vata, the different types, how they link to the 5 elements. Do you want to just talk a little bit about how important it is to have a system or a structure which allows you to get a much deeper distinction of what's measurable and what you can improve, as opposed to just trying to be perfect tomorrow, which never works, and how you do that when you're working together with your clients?
Sure. So a process that I would go through is definitely feel the pulse and find out what's going on. If you can't feel the pulse, you can also ask quite a lot of questions to actually get really specific with what's going on. So when you know that someone may come in with some sort of disease and they think that, they're presenting with this symptom and this symptom. It's like when you're working with someone in business, they're presenting with this and this and this, but you're not actually dealing with the core problem. And the core problem is the thing that's actually holding them back, right? So then you deal with what is, so some people can be in really severe illness, but it's all caused by stress. So you nail the nervous system first before you even touch anything else. So it's really working with that. So the process we would work in is find out, first of all, their body type. So are they Vata? Are they more the skinny minis, the wiry body type, the ones that are more lean and, lose weight easily, get stressed easily, have a lot of anxiety? Or are they more the Pitta, which is more strong, more organized, more structured, like the go-getters? Or are they more Kapha? They're a bit relaxed. It's like the little cuddly bear and whatever, it takes them a bit to get going, but once they get going, they keep going, right? But they are more adipose tissue. They put on weight easily. But you have people in the different body types, and they try to be something that they're not. So, the Kaphas like Oprah have been trying to be like a Vata all her life, right? And they're wondering why they're always not happy. As soon as they know who they are, then they can deal with it. So once you know like your body type, then you can eat accordingly to your body type. But there's a step before that. So first of all, you have to get rid of all the toxins in your body, which we call, you can call it inflammation, you can call it free radicals, whatever you want. That will block all your flow. So you talked about flow and you talked about blockages and things like that. If that is there, it doesn't matter what you do, you can't, progress to the next. So that's why we've got so many people in pain, so much people in inflammation. That's why turmeric is now the best thing for everybody. So there's all those types of things. And then you also have to know where you are in the disease state process. So there's 6 stages of disease. So there's like aggravation, which means something is wrong with the digestion. There's accumulation, which means it's starting to get stuck in the digestive system and starting to sit there. And it mixes with one of the dosha, which is like the vata, pitta, and kapha, right? Then it goes to the spreading when the body says, I want to get it out. I can't, if I leave it here, I'm going to get sick. So it starts to spread. And then 4, it starts to localize. So it will get stuck in a certain part of your body to protect you. So it'll be in joints, it'll be in wherever, liver, bone, or wherever it sits, fat tissue. Then in stage 5 is when you go to the doctor and the doctor now gives you a disease. Now you've got a name, so now you've got some problem. And then stage 6 is cancer, autoimmune. So once you know how much armor you have, what is your body type, what stage, you can actually set a pathway of getting them out of that. And like you've got the steps there with your getting out into the well spectrum, it's the same thing. You need to do a step-by-step process and actually commit to the conduct of it. So if you're committing to it daily, then you get the result.
Yeah, no, I think that's, and this is the thing, when you get to meet with someone, you can find out exactly at which level it's at. You can find out exactly what it is you need to do to shift it. Something really interesting around this, and I'm not going to get into massively on this call, but I think it's so fascinating, which is when when we did this in Melbourne, when people were like saying, what's the easy way for you to actually spot someone's profile? And I would do this thing where I'd kind of be able to see exactly where their kind of center of gravity is, or what I call the point of power, and everyone would be able to spot it exactly the right place. And even taking, your different levels here, definitely more the pitta type is the type that basically you'll find more at the dynamo level, whereas if you actually go down to the base, you'll find more people who are kapha, who are like, in the, from like, supported lord below, and the vata are kind of like on the corners. It's really interesting, like, because I had never really studied that much on this, but I think there's, and I was mentioning this just before we started the call, that there's some, programs out there like, Dr. Abravanel here with his body type diet, where he talks about basically the link between our chemistry, which is our, hormones that we're producing from different glands, and how that gives us a certain way we think and a certain way that we actually find flow in life, and also, the same way that we actually go about finding our ideal health, right, in terms of how that works too. And I actually did a bit of an overlay, which is this one here, which kind of shows how the different elements of what he's talking about in terms of a thyroid type, which is, you've got vata, which is all about movement, you've got pitta, all about transformation, you've got kapha, all about structure, and they do link. And I think it's only a matter of time before, probably between all of us working on it together, we'll create a health dynamics, which actually links all this together, which I think would be really cool. But coming back, yeah, I'll come back to basically some very practical steps everyone can take in a moment. I want to come back to Sarah for a moment. And Sarah, like, there was one thing that your trainer said to you, because for him to say, okay, I want to commit myself to really making sure that, you have everything you need to become the world champion, he actually combined a number of things together in terms of, like seeing your, body type or your commitment, or what were the key things that he was saying combined together to make you an ideal candidate to be able to go for world champion?
Well, firstly, it probably was my body type. My proportions and symmetry are virtually perfect. And the one thing he's always said to me that I have over anybody else he's ever trained, and he's been training for 15 years, he's trained all levels of athletes from just beginners to right up to elite. The one thing he said is my mental toughness is the best he's ever seen. So when I commit to something, I commit absolutely to it. And that's why he was as well, even when I had my arm in a sling after the surgery, he was able to say to me, I will make you world champion if that's something you want to do, because he knew I would be able to stick the journey out and do what it takes to get there. So, he showed a great deal of faith in me, and I guess as a consequence, you know, I wanted to reward him as well for basically sticking his personal reputation on the line. But, you know, so he sort of kept me accountable, but my own mental toughness and my own strength, my own commitment is really what helped get through the sort of, you know, the tougher times.
Yeah. So I think that's the real key that for everyone listening, you've heard me say before that at the first base you need as kind of like the underlay to your success in life is not following your passions, because following your passions, but if you think that's the underlay, there's way too many people out there saying I'm following my passions, and there's no level of commitment towards their success in a way that others say I want to work with that person. And so the very first step is this level of commitment, which is like, you know, it's like if I dedicate myself to something, I'm going to make it happen. And there's no place to start that better than your own body and your own health. And if you do that and say, right, you know, I'm going to set myself like goals of what I'm going to be able to achieve, and I'm going to promise to myself I'm going to achieve it, and I'm going to meet my promise. You know, at the end of the day, like everything about entrepreneurship is about being on a journey of promise, which means that you're actually willing to stick through something. And that's the number one thing that people want to feel if they're going to come with you. It isn't that you have all the answers, but it's that you're going to stick it out, and it's worth their time to do that as well. So for everyone listening, if you're thinking, oh, really, commitment's an important thing, I thought the whole thing was about, you know, going out there and living my life and so on. It's like, yeah, that stuff comes after you're willing to actually go out there and commit to making sure things that continue to improve and get better, and that you're actually getting things down to a distinction level on how you actually deliver the results. So on the same way that Joe was talking about that, and how she actually can actually even measure down to 360 different ways you can check your pulse, and she's willing to go to that level to make sure that she's getting that incremental improvement, and know the only way you can get an incremental improvement on something is to have a fine enough definition of what you're trying to measure. So for example, if you want to measure your money, you know, measure it down to the dollar, so that even just $1 extra is going to make you feel, okay, I move forward in that. And just as an example of that, I just want to show this thing here on the screen, which is from your blog actually, Sarah, where you actually post on here this diet. This is one of your latest blogs, which is the Lego diet, and you just say, so everyone mentioned this to everyone, just says, oh, how to make competition diet really, really ridiculously easy. And what Sarah's done here, she just said, all I do is I basically break down my entire diet into basically blocks, which I call Lego blocks, and then she meals all the blocks together. And then you can see she actually puts out at the beginning of her training, like what the blocks look like, and there's a mix of all sorts of different things. And then as she goes through, she's actually then switching certain carbs to fats to veggies, and then by the time you're getting close to the end, like you can see, there's no carbs left, lots and lots of veggies in here. You can see the protein, she's actually taken Lego blocks out as well by the time she's getting close to the end, you know. And then she says what it looks like afterwards is like, you know, and it's not like you're not starving yourself at all. If anything, you're
that's a snack.
Yeah, that's a snack. That's a snack.
I will say that over the years we've refined exactly what works very specifically for my body. With all of the clients that I prep myself, I do everything. I tailor everything to their body, and it's interesting that I guess the traditional sort of body types that you've got, sort of the endomorph, the ectomorph, and the mesomorph, sort of align quite well with Joe's Ayurvedic body types as well. So if I had an endomorph, which is the kapha, then they would probably also be on a much lower carbohydrate diet as well, because they're much slower metabolisms. Whereas if I had the vata type or an ectomorph, then I'd be loading them up with carbohydrates because they've got a very fast metabolism. So there are you know, I was just looking at that diagram that you've got there, and I was looking at the sort of the characteristics of the body types, and yes, there is like quite a lot of similarity in some of the characteristics there, and those are the sort of things that I work on as well when I work with a client. Of course, not everybody fits directly into one, you know, wholly into one thing. There's degrees of, so of course I have to tweak it according to who I'm dealing with.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay, great. So here's what I'm going to do for everybody. I'm going to switch gears here with a couple of actions that everyone can take, and then we're going to do a Q&A. There's already a bunch of questions people have asked. If you've got questions specifically for Joe or for Sarah, post them on the Facebook group, and I'll refresh this in a moment. and then I'll take any questions that are on here as well, so they can answer those questions for you, okay? But some of you got specific questions. I've also posted in here a video which I did, which Joe's in, which actually was back in March when I was in Brisbane, which is how I make my videos, because she had a question she was asking at the time, and you can go find that video. I've actually just posted it. It's up here too. So that's an extra little bit here as well. But here's a couple of actions, two actions. The first action, which is specifically around what we're talking about when we talk about commit to conduct, right? And so there is basically an assessment you can take, which makes it really easy for you. What you're going to do is go to Genius U.
Sorry, you've gone really faint, Roger, sorry.
Oh, can you hear me? How's it?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, cool. All right, so on Genius U, you can see that in Genius U at the moment, under missions, the same one that we were in last month when we were talking about measure your money, which was the first step, you now can go to the second step from measure your money, which is about and you'll see that the way we go about measure your money, which is not just what's going on with your money now, but what's it going to be in the next 3 to 6 months, is very similar to what we're talking about with your health. What's it going to look like 3 to 6 months in the future? Right now Sarah has a very clear idea of exactly what she wants to be looking like in 3 months' time, and there's certain things she's going to need to do to make that happen. But as long as she follows the plan, she's going to look that way, the way she wants to look in 3 months' time. So what you want your money to look like is exactly the same. It's like work forwards with a plan to get to where you want to get to, as opposed to trying to do a little bit where you're at today. So that's measure your money. But you see, commit to conduct is this next step, which is about basically your behaviors and your habits and the extent to which you are becoming a conductor here. So I talk about that as an electric conductor, music conductor, bus conducter, and you'll see here that there's an assessment you can take, which is having a clear picture of the top 3 people in flow. So there's no question that for someone like Sarah to become a world champion, she would have had to look at other world champions. What did they look like? How did they win? And basically start to model off some of those. I understand the language of opportunity, which is how do you actually show up at basically being of opportunity to people around you, as opposed to needing things, which again was very much in her story, the way she actually became an opportunity for her trainer. Knowing what the top values are that you offer in exchange for money, so it's not all about money to start with. This is a really interesting one, which I want to kind of like complete the second half of this call on when we talk about kind of like next steps, because Joe's going through some shifts in her business model, and I know that with Sarah, she's got a whole business model she's going to be launching, she's going to go into as well. But go through each of these 10 different steps. Here's the link, right? So I'm going to give you this link, so you got it on here as well. So go and just take that, because this allows you to assess where you're at right now and commit to conduct. And also, once you've done it, you will then find whatever your score is, that on the next page you've actually got a playbook you can download, which actually allows you to improve all those areas, right? So it's kind of like homework between now and the next call, is actually go through this. And it doesn't matter how successful you are right now, there's always a way for us to continue to improve our own commitment to ourselves, right, in terms of how successful we want to be. And hopefully even just from this call, some of you already are feeling a lot more motivated to make sure you're looking after your health more, looking after your diet more, knowing that the better you treat yourself, the better the universe is going to treat you too, right? And the more people around you are going to be wanting to kind of like get around your energy, because your energy will definitely transform the more you're getting to flow from a physical and a spiritual point of view as well. We haven't spent a lot of time on the spiritual side, but definitely that's as important as your mind and your body, right? So, so think about all 3 of those, and don't think that these are things which are nice to haves. Think of them as things which are absolutely necessary. It's a good thing to think that the better you treat yourself and the more time out you give to yourself, the better your business is going to be. But you've actually got to have discipline to actually give yourself that time to make that possible, make that the case. So that's one action. I want to give you a second action as well for everyone on the call, and it's a new mission which just launched today, which is why there's almost no one on it yet, right? This is here, only 8 students enrolled so far. This is the Genius Guide to Health, and JJ Virgin, who's the, it's kind of interesting because one of the things which Sarah said she wanted to be is the #1 nutritionist, nutrition and fitness expert in Australia. In America, JJ Virgin is the #1 at the moment, and she's our partner for our Genius Guide to Health. So we just launched it, and what's really interesting about it is that it allows you to find what's the natural way for you to find out what are the best foods for you, what you're most intolerant to, and to do it specifically off your natural. Oh, thank you, JJ. So this is, I'll give you her link, but she's basically our partner on this, and I'm pretty sure she'll want to work with the likes of, Joe and Sarah with what we do in Australia as well. But what's really cool about the mission is that if you really want to get started straight away on Genius U with our mission, you can see it here. This actually gives you a downloadable guide. And the reason that downloadable guide is so valuable is you'll see here, if we go to Genius Guide to Health, here is what it looks like. It actually has within it, it actually has within it how, if you're a Dynamo Genius, you can follow a diet plan or a fitness plan. How, if you're a Blaze Genius, you need to do differently. And for each one of us, we have different things we do naturally well, and we have different things that we actually don't do well at all. And by understanding exactly what they are, and then understanding exactly how we go about following a plan using our natural genius, that's like a super powerful way. So like Blaze Guide to Health, social and fun loving, easily distracted, these are people who actually need to have many more touch points, have a group to actually support them. Very different from a Dynamo Genius who needs more targets and needs more milestones to achieve and so on. So like really, it's a really, really valuable way to use your natural flow to actually get into your own commitment of who you are, right? So that's all something which, again, is free of charge for everybody to go in and just give it a go. And you're the first really to hear about this as well. Okay, let's do this. Let's go and look at some questions now. I'm going to start with some Q&A, if there are any questions here specifically for, let's have a look here. There's a bunch of different things here. Most of them are comments, I think, but we'll see. And I'll give a moment for any questions that you want to actually post in to here, all right? And I'll come down to some of these in a moment and comments and questions. But I'm going to come over to also the Q&A, which is here in our June questions, right? So a couple of different ones that I want to kind of like cover. I won't cover all of them, but I'll cover a couple of key ones here that I think would be helpful. We have Sandy here, who actually has a site called Simply Better Health, which is saying to engage the supporter to manage business with little funds to begin with, leaving for you to crave how to do that, right? So it's like how to build a team, basically. Another one, which is here, Fit to Change, how to stay in flow when feeling anxious or overwhelmed, how to keep people engaged over long periods. So very similar in terms of actually how do we actually get a team to support what we're doing. Blaze Supporter, I do make connections. How do you suggest monetizing connections? Actually, I'm going to come back to Cheryl's as a different question, but I'm going to come to these two first. And I'm going to come over to you, Joe, and say, when it comes to actually getting the right team together, and I know you're redesigning your team right now, what would you share for those? I mean, here's two examples of people that actually have, fitness and health companies to actually get the right team together to support you to be able to be in your flow within your business. What would you say?
Yeah, so Roger, I think it's really important because when you are somebody who is leading the business and you don't have the support of the accounts team or people who can sell your product and things like that, where you just end up being everything to everybody, and it takes you out of flow a lot. So, and so many things get put on the back burner all the time. And so just getting really clear about, we profile all of our team now and putting them into the right seat on the bus, and don't expect them to be everything for, everybody. So I think that's been a really key process for us to, and also go, okay, that person comes up with that, but their attitude particularly is not, you can do their profile, but their attitude is not actually for your passion. So I think that's really important too.
Now, I mean, like you've got your team that you've been running with the clinic, basically, and from going from more of a clinic model to one where you actually can do online projects and where you're actually able to run. I mean, like you had an example recently where you actually ran a detox program online. Do you want to share just like the success you had of that when you actually packaged something online and we were able to sell that and link it to your offline products as opposed to when you were just charging by the hour for people to come in and have sessions with you?
Yeah, so with the detox program that we're developing, like a model, for example, every time you see a client, it's going to be like an hour or half an hour or whatever, and it doesn't allow the person to basically be held their hand. You're repeating the same stuff all the time anyway. So if you can actually, multiply that and then magnify it, right? So you can keep getting that everything nailed into that process, but you're guiding them through what you're going to take them through anyway, but probably with a lot more value. So, and then you give the time to your high-end clients. So I spend a lot of time with my high-end executives where I personally give them more one-on-one stuff where they need it, because really entrepreneurs or high-end executives are really babies. They actually do need somebody to take care of them, and so that type of process, they do need that. But then when you have it so it is now laid out, and it feels like the person's doing the journey, but now we're also personalizing it a little bit more. So like you said, we are going to take them to where they get LinkedIn. A lot of people are saying, oh, I don't find anybody else who's like me, who understands what I'm talking about. So now we're going to go, okay, so yeah, you are Vata, you are Pitta, you are Kapha, and then you can get into a community of posting, different recipes. And it's funny, people actually want that, and they do want to feel belonged. So I think that's definitely a shift that we're going to make in our model as well.
Awesome. Yeah, that's very cool. And just on your side, Sarah, as you what's interesting is that because you were spending a lot of time around other competitors, you came up with the whole stage angels concept, which was delivering a need for them. But of course, it's a niche, so there's a small number of people that you're working with. And now what we'll do is expand it to a much wider group of people. But you want to share even just what was the service through the photography and through the stage angels concept you were providing to other competitors as well?
Primarily, it's competition preparation, and that's actually it's a very time-consuming process because you have to get to know the person. You obviously have to work out what their body type is, and I work on a much longer time frame than a lot of coaches because my philosophy is to keep it as safe and as healthy for the person as possible, so that by the time they do get onto stage, they're actually they've enjoyed the process as well. And I get my girls to do blood tests before and after, and I've actually got documentary proof that my methods keep them healthy. In the competitive world, it's an unfortunate fact that a lot of female competitors, even if they do the bikini categories, which is much softer and they don't have to lose so much body fat, they can lose their menstrual cycle, and unfortunately it's way too common. Not one of my girls has ever done that, and I never have either, despite getting down to 6% body fat. So that shows me that what I'm doing is different from how everybody else is doing it, because my girls are healthy.
Yeah.
They're not being compromised in any way. So that's my primary goal is to make sure that people are on stage in a healthy state.
Mm. Well, I think that's a really unique and a specific part of what you're doing, which is so important as well. And it's all about, knowing that, like, more and more, especially when it comes to things like bodybuilding or in terms of, like, particular competitions, it's like so easy to kind of like go over the line, and suddenly you end up using all the wrong supplements or the wrong.
Yeah, look, it's a very interesting field to be in because, like I say, not only do you have to really, really understand exactly how food works in the body, but what it does at what particular times and when's the best time to eat food. But I've lost the train of thought again. I've lost my train of thought again.
It is about the fact that there are so many shortcuts or easy ways to get there.
Sorry, yes, I was going to get on to the fact that there's actually an awful lot of disordered eating in the bodybuilding sort of world because of a lot of sort of myths and bad practices and stuff. So I actually have to deal with that a lot. So what I do with my clients, and again, nobody else, I'm also an NLP trainer as well. So I give my clients the tools and the strategies to not only get to where they want to go to, but also to manage themselves afterwards. And very, very few people do that. And I actually had one competitor. She had a complete light bulb moment. She said to me, "Sarah, you're not putting me on a diet, are you? You're teaching me a lifestyle." And that's it. That's what I give people, is a sustainable lifestyle for the rest of their life, even after competition. So that's what I do differently.
So here's what I'm going to do, because I'm going to take a couple of questions that are directed for both of you, and I'm going to take one generic question in a moment from all of this, which links to all of this, which is exactly what you said. In the same way that health is a lifestyle, wealth is also a lifestyle. It's not an endpoint. It's a habit, and it's a way of being where every day you're always creating more than you are consuming. You're always in a positive situation. You're always in a better situation than the day before. And so it's a mindset and it's a lifestyle that comes with it. And it's a habit you actually have every day to say, have I been a positive contribution to the world today? So when you take that as a base, one thing, there's a couple of different questions which I'm going to bring all together here. And by the way, there's lots of questions here, so I am going to today, like within the next 24 hours, come to each of your questions and post something, and I'm going to post a reply here, right? Even though it's not going to be on this call for all of them. But there's a couple of you who have a fairly similar question. I'm going to add you all together. So there's this one here from James. My current role at Airworks New Zealand, helicopter design team manager, pretty cool job, has good projects in the long term and pays reasonably well, but the company is limited to a pretty incremental growth improvement, and hence so is my role. I've got cash and investments to not need to work for a while, right? So should I leave the sure bet of the incremental job or pursue the many alternatives I have, which is basically, do I quit the job or not, right? There's a similar one up at the top here from Yong Kang who says the same thing. I'm at HBO Asia. It's coming to an end in August. Do I go back and renew with these guys? The downside is that I don't get to learn much tech and animation, which is where I really want to go. The alternative is I go to somewhere like Autodesk or ThoughtWorks where I can follow a path that actually takes me up towards my identity, but I might not get paid enough. So which one of these two should I do, right? So many of us have that same situation, which is which part of flow do I follow? Or here's another one. Here's Richard. I run a specialized service in which I teach online at live events. Here's a human design business. Here's the problem he's got is, he's got all these different products he wants to develop. He's got his pension money, which he's already lost half of because it's in the stock market for 4 years. He's got someone who's managing his money and has lost half the money. You're saying it's because of appalling market conditions, but I can tell you there's a lot of people who did not lose half the money in the last 4 years, so I think that's more to do with having an appalling manager. But now the question is, do I get out and cash in and lose about 40 grand on the stock and 75% of the tax, or do I kind of hang in there, and then what do I do about funding the rest of my stuff? All these questions come as a result of not having criteria to make a decision on what you're going to do, which is why it's like, I don't know what to do. So there's this triangle which I've shared with the Chris Circle members, which is, the likes of Richard Branson, the likes of Warren Buffett, they have such clear criteria for their decisions, they can immediately say, that's something I will do, that's something I won't do, right? So if you're in a situation which is like, geez, which way do I go on this? The key to it is to have much clearer criteria to say, that's what I'll do or what I don't do. Like, someone like Sarah has very clear criteria on what she eats and what she doesn't eat. Someone like Joe has very clear criteria on what she will put in the body, what she won't put in the body, right? And why? Because they don't just have content, which is basically knowing what the options are, but context, which is knowing why they're doing it in the first place, right? It's the big why you do anything. So what we've done over the last 2 cores is, first of all, before we even get to infrared level, we focus at something called your future vision. This is the mountain you're climbing. This is the end point, right? So your future vision has got to be the number one thing. It's like, well, everything I'm doing does move me towards the future person I want to be, okay? If it doesn't, I shouldn't be doing it, right? The second thing that's happened, which has happened at red level, is that you've set a number, which is the measurable growth that you've actually got, right? It's the dollar growth of what you're trying to achieve over the next 3 months, over the next 6 months, right? So now you've got 2 criteria here. And what we're doing here is we're adding a third element in, which is knowing, number one, what is it that actually is my future vision I'm going for? Number 2, what is it that basically is the growth in terms of dollars I need to generate? And is it cash flow positive in the first place? And then the third thing, which is the key to this element, is this something which allows me to increase my conduct or increase my flow, okay, as I'm going through this? So let's take those 3 criteria and come right back to the 3 things, or to these 3 questions, right? And on the one hand, you'll see that for Richard, like whether or not you take the money out of the stock market is one question, right? You don't want to go and lose, everything except 25%. What I would do if I was you is change your manager, right? That's what I'd do. But don't take the money out to just dump into your business, because if you think about your business, you should be able to already do your next promotion in a way that's profitable. If you have an online business, there's always a way to design the website or the book or the next product you're going to do, go out, get pre-orders, get it filled up, and straight away the thing will take off. And you don't need to have investment money to go in to actually get the money out. So if you haven't figured out a way yet to make it profitable, that's our job. That's our focus, because you shouldn't be going and taking money from outside, dumping it in here where there's no flow, and then that makes there's going to be negative flow. In both James's case and also in Yong Kang's case, both of you want to be doing something that's going to lead you to where you want to go. That means that, James, you still need to be doing your Clark Kent time, or else it means that you're going to diminish flow. You want to still increase flow, but you want to minimize your time in it. So say, what's the minimum amount of time I need to put into this? And then what's my Superman time? And what is it I want to actually achieve in life? And how can I use my Superman time towards that? And if I was you, Yong Kang, I would already go to something like Autodesk or ThoughtWorks, because it means you can still be earning money, but now doing something that actually is leading to your Superman time, but it's paid Superman time, right? So do switch from HBO to one of those two, and you're going to love it much more. You're going to find it much more meaningful. And remember, at the end of the day, everything's about being measurable and meaningful, but growing flow as you go. So is it hitting my future vision? Is it putting dollars in my pocket? And is it allowing me to increase flow as I go? And every one of these calls, we're going to add a new criteria to your decisions, so it becomes easier and easier for you to make those decisions as you go. Okay, so I'll come over to the rest, and I'll give answers to these. So come back and check on this tomorrow, and you'll see what answers I gave to your questions. I'm coming now to these comments here. A few comments here. Okay. Question for Sarah from Tara Mitchell. When will your program be ready? I'm ready to sign up. Okay, so Sarah, I know I was already talking to you about the idea. So anyone who wants to work with Sarah, listen carefully to this, right? Because I suggested to Sarah that she create something over the next 3 months that she calls something like the Champion Challenge, right? Or something that actually allows us to see her progress with a check-in every week or so, where we each are actually putting together our own diet plan and fitness plan based on a consultation with her, and then check in every week. We get a buddy system together. Maybe there's like 10 people that do this, so it's a small group that does this and follows it all the way through to her championships. And Sarah, you thought that was a good idea. If people wanted to join something like that, and we were to just put something like that together and make it happen, how should they contact you? What's the best way?
Probably through my Facebook page.
All right, like send you a Facebook.
Sorry.
Then you like a Facebook private message on here on the Facebook page.
Yeah, PM me on the Facebook page. I think that'll probably be best.
Awesome. Okay, so if anyone likes the sound of that, if something like that was around like $500 a month or something, which is very affordable, and if you think, all right, that's worth it for me to actually transform my health in 3 months and also be on the journey with Sarah as she goes for her next round of championships, then send her a message, and I'm sure we'll get a whole bunch of people who'd be interested in doing that, and then we can work at actually putting a really cool program together to make that happen. Does that sound good?
That would be great.
Okay, well, let's do that, right? So if anyone's up for that, send her a message. Let's do it. And let me ask Joe, like, if someone wanted to go on a full detox with you and actually really give themselves a chance to get really clear where they're at, what's the best way to contact you?
I'd say probably email would be best.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you want to? So let's put your email on the post here, right?
Yeah. Joe at backtohealth, I think, .net.au.
All right. Joe's email. Okay. All right. I just posted that up there. Awesome. Okay. There's a couple more questions here. We'll finish up on these, so we just gone a little over time here. Eric has said.
I promise there will be chocolate.
Okay. So Eric says, what tips can you give to prepare all these health meals without having to hire a person to do so for you? Well, you've had a lot of experience on that. Sarah, what would you say to that one?
Sorry, what was the question again?
What tips can you give to prepare all these health meals without having to hire a person to do so for you?
It's organisation and pre-planning. I spend maximum of an hour on a Sunday, and in that hour I can prepare 4 or 5 days worth of, the basis of 4 or 5 days worth of meals in an hour. So it really just comes down to preparation and a bit of foreplanning.
That's like an hour you plan out. Will you plan out and prepare all of it?
Yeah. So I'll go and get what I need, and then I'll spend an hour chopping, dicing, cooking. I might make up a venison stew, a bolognese, and a chicken curry, for example. That's breakfast, lunch, and dinner for 3 or 4 days. Then I'll bake up 2 kilograms of chicken. There's another 10 meals. I'll steam up some vegetables, and again, I just throw those onto another 4 or 5 meals, and that takes me about an hour. Right.
So it's all forward planning, and it's all just basically knowing ahead of time what are you going to be creating, and then just like sitting down and just working it out. And by the way, that's exactly the same with planning out how you're running a promotion and things like that. It doesn't normally take more than about an hour to do, provided you get in the habit of doing it regularly. and
Yeah,
then
so that's it. Every hour, every Sunday, 1 hour. That's it. You throw it in the freezer and it's done. You've got meals.
very cool. All right. Okay. Two more things I want to share here. These are more rather than questions. These are just comments. First one comes from I've just lost them now. Hang on a second. Okay, so the first one comes from Cheryl Angela, who's in America. Just spent a weekend with Deepak Chopra, and he was discussing doshas and balancing with Ayurvedic medicine. So yeah, he's a good source for this. And then Michelle Clark, Joe Formosa measured my body type and pulse and knew everything about me. I followed her advice and lost 11 pounds already. That's like within 2 months, I think, and feel much better physically. And Michelle's managed to do that while I think at the same time increasing her alcohol intake. So that's pretty amazing. Although I don't think that was part of the plan, right?
No.
That's not what she told me afterwards.
So everyone who's listening, thank you so much for listening. There's some homework to do there. I really hope that the main message that's come through here is commit to conduct, is really taking your entire life and saying, what's the habit of excellence you want to create, which then will then ripple across everything you do, including how you build your wealth, and take those steps to do it. If you were both to share one final word to everyone, what would you want to share? Joe, what would you want to share with everybody? Final thing.
I would say one of the best things you can do is not only find out your profile, but find out your body type. Because when you know what your body type is, if you're Vata, Pitta, or Kapha, then you can start having your lifestyle around balancing those things. And once they're in balance, you're going to be more able to be in flow.
Awesome. Very cool. And how about for you, Sarah?
For me, I think it comes down to the fact that you can be in control. There's so much conflicting information out there. I think a lot of people find that it's more difficult than it actually is. They become overwhelmed with sort of information overload. For me, it was taking back control. And if I can do it, then anybody else can. And actually, it's actually up on my website. I'm always saying the phrase, "It's never too late. You just have to start," and I can help you start.
That's awesome. Very cool. Well, I want to thank both of you very much for being on the call and just being on the journey and sharing your journey with us. And really looking forward to seeing how things evolve over the coming months for the two of you, and also for everyone else who's running through any of these programs, and even on the Entrepreneur Mastermind, sharing your successes as we go along as well. So thanks a lot, everyone, for listening in. And thanks, Joe. Thanks, Sarah. And we'll catch up with you again separately. But bye for now.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.